Brandon Thurston from WrestleNomics is up next, and we're going to follow Brandon with John Pollock from Post Wrestling.
Delivering on the returns, increasing our margins.
Ratings go down the toilet if I'm not here.
All I do is simply put the math in my favor.
We agree that Brandon and John do good work.
The reason is simple wrestling economics.
I've been told the Netflix numbers. I've been told the metrics a little bit, probably 5 different times. I still don't get it.
There were respectable wrestling journalists who needed answers.
Thank you very much, members of the media. I hope you all go to hell.
How about we pop a number right here, right now?
Whole part of the show, man.
Welcome to Pollock and Thurston. I am John Pollock alongside Brandon Thurston. Today, we are going to be discussing voice messages. Finally, the very well-protected, sealed voicemails were let out of their natural habitat. This was thought to be a near impossibility. How could an audio file be transferred electronically? Well, after many weeks, an answer was found, and Brandon Thurston was he received 3 voicemails that had been granted public access weeks ago. I am so glad that technology has reached a place where that audio can be transferred in a modern world.
Well, the court, I meant to have the emails that I sent back and forth between myself and the court ready. So what happened here? The Judge J. Travis Laster, Vice Chancellor J. Travis Laster, ruled on, I think it was May 28th or so, that yes, these audio files, among other things, have to be released to the public. WWE did not want them released. Said I had no right, the public has no right to get these files. There's no case law supporting this. They said it would be an ad hoc mechanism that would be needed to transfer these files because the e-filing system, File Insert Express, one of my favorite online platforms, that can't transfer audio files. It transfers documents. And Vice Chancellor J. Travis Laster agreed that no, it's a public record. It was filed in the case. It was filed by the plaintiffs. Presumably they got discovery from Ari Emanuel's phone and Vince McMahon's phone, and they maybe just Vince McMahon's phone, because these are received by Vince. One is sent by Vince, and they filed these as exhibits in native audio format. And there were transcripts available of them, too. That was another point that W was raising to say, you've already got the words. And I said, no, those are a transcription of the words that were spoken. When you speak words, they can be said with different intonations that could intonate and express different things. So there is case law to support this too. If you had a precedent that was set is that in a trial in Delaware Chancery Court, a video deposition was played, and because it was played in open court, I believe it's ProPublica came in and said, we want the video. We don't just want the deposition transcripts. We're entitled to the video. And the court, I think it might have been J. Travis Laster also in that case, agreed, yes, you played the video at trial, ProPublica gets the video. So anyway, so the court ruled that those audio files had to be released. I emailed a bunch of people on the day that those audio files, along with other documents, were to be released. Got the documents, did not get the audio files. Took a while. I emailed the court administrators and things of that nature. Eventually, they said, "Oh yes, we're going to follow up with you." Okay, the audio files are now on a thumb drive that you can come to the court and get. You have sign it out. We will let you sign out a thumb drive.
Sign it out. That means you have to return it?
That contains, I don't know, that contains these audio files. So you can go to the court, or we know maybe you don't live in Wilmington, Delaware. You can mail us. You can send us $5 first, but then mail us a package that we'll receive from you. We'll put the thumb drive in the package. We'll mail the thumb drive back to you. fortunately, with some help from Xerxes Wilson of the News Journal locally in Delaware, and with some help from Jennifer Kay of Bloomberg Law, who we had on a few weeks ago, we were able to get Xerxes Wilson to go to the courthouse, sign out the thumb drive, which immediately generated a docket entry on the docket for this case. And then that was passed along to me by email. I did ask the court administrators if they could just email me the files, because I had confirmed that these files were not like giant mega gigabytes. These are small files. And then, but they said, no, computer security reasons, we can't send you an audio file through email or through any other platform. We can only send it to you in physical copy. So I heard that. So once Xerxes Wilson got the audio files, or was about to get them, it was then at that point realized that the audio files were not in a traditional audio file format.
Why would they be in a format that is universal? Why are we screwing around with MP3s? Why?
So, I heard that IT had to get involved. The files were successfully converted into MP3, and they did appear in my email from Jennifer Kay. So thanks to both of them, to Xerxes Wilson and to Jennifer Kay, for helping let freedom ring here.
Yeah, I'm glad they really stretched those tax dollars well over these last couple of weeks. Certainly,
I tried.
Yeah, I know you tried. At least this had a happy ending at the end, and we do have, in fact, the audio voice messages. So that's going to take us back to the ever consequential summer of 2022, and Vince McMahon with his famous tweet that he's retiring. He's done. Who is the first person that who is he calling right after that tweet is sent? It's good old Ari Emanuel. His security blanket during the summer of 2022, when everyone thinks that Vince, he's getting out of the spotlight. No, Vince is busy at work that particular summer. And then we go to September 16th, correct? This is the first voicemail that we have from Ari Emanuel. And this first one concerns the investigations into Vince McMahon and a reputable firm that may have some alumni that are part of this DOJ. Those being ex-lawyers at Latham that we have explained in the past, but there is a significance about that particular law firm that is on some of these representatives' resumes.
Latham Watkins is Ari Emanuel and Endeavor's key outside counsel. And in fact, it's Latham and Watkins who were representing and are representing the non-Vince McMahon WWE defendants in this case. It's the number 2 or number 1 law firm in the country, the United States. It's this case was like Harvard and Princeton. You had Kirkland and Ellis, the number 1 or number 2 law firm in the U.S. representing Vince. You had Latham and Watkins representing Nick Kompolovec, George Barris, Michelle Wilson. And according to what Ari Emanuel implies here is that, look, Latham and Watkins attorneys are great attorneys. It's this high-end, super high-end law firm. And a lot of them, have worked in the past for the Southern District of New York. What is the Southern District of New York? I'm so glad I get to explain this. So in federal court, the federal court system is broken up into districts. I live in the Western District of New York, right? So imagine the New York state of New York is broken up into I think it's 4 different pieces. Different states are broken up into different pieces. Some states are small enough, like Connecticut, that they just have one district. Anyway, the Southern District of New York is a particularly high profile district because it's centered on New York City. Anyway, that is the district that prosecutors from that district. This is a part of the Department of Justice. I almost said Department of Defense. This is a part of the Department of Justice that has prosecutors who prosecute crimes. And they were investigating whether Vince McMahon committed any crimes. Never charged, except for the steroid trial back in the day, but never charged. That was in the Eastern District, by the way. So Do I need to turn the air conditioner off?
We might try without, but we can play this first clip while
Okay.
We are just getting some bounce back here. But we will let's play this first voicemail, and then we will pick up from there. So this is the first voicemail. This is from Ari Emanuel on September 16th, calling Vince McMahon.
I spoke to my lawyer from Latham. Just FYI, everybody at the DOJ is former Latham lawyers. So on that side, we'll be helpful. SEC, of course, it's SEC, but that's just a penalty. As it relates to everything else, yes, we can indemnify you, and we will. If it's criminal, of course, you can't stop criminal, but this is not criminal. Call me when you get a chance.
Of course.
What did he
Brandon
say? I missed it.
Well, you know, it's that old saying you and I always share with one another. If it's criminal, it's criminal. But this isn't criminal.
It is what it is.
It is. No
way. How do you interpret? There's, so we should bring up Ari's deposition, because he is confronted in his deposition with these comments. But how do you interpret that? What he just said there?
Okay, so I look at this one as certainly one that I think a very skilled lawyer would defend, that he's not outright promising anything that is I don't want to go so far as to say corrupt, but nefarious, okay? I think you can certainly take that implication. Like, what is the relevance of these lawyers being previous Latham lawyers? What is the significance of that? That would be for Ari to answer. I mean, your interpretation is, well, these are all guys that we have been close with. You don't have to worry about this, okay? This one is essentially in the bag. But that is me kind of jumping to that conclusion. He's not outright stating that, but is kind of dancing around that particular. He is settling any concerns Vince might have. That, hey, you come with us, we've got a pathway all carved out for you, Vince. Is how I interpret that.
And he's talking about indemnification there too, which that would be about civil law. That's now Ari has strongly denied that Vince was ever indemnified as a result of this deal or by Ari personally. Indemnification is like we were indemnified on one occasion publishing an article, and it's the idea that this company is going to take care of any of your legal. If somebody sues you, the company is going to take care of it. They're going to pay your legal defense. If you lose in civil court, they're going to pay for the damages. So that's what indemnification is. Now, Ari said he never got indemnified, and it appears
does that matter at the end of the day? He's clearly making a promise here that you will be indemnified. Is this swaying Vince McMahon, even if ultimately this is not delivered to Vince McMahon, that he is not indemnified?
I think you have Jeff Stein in his deposition saying Vince wouldn't even have known what it meant to be indemnified. Nonetheless,
really,
nonetheless, J. Travis Lasser, the judge in this case, did rule that because of the loss of evidence through not retaining signal messages and things like that, that he was going to consider at trial that offer, regardless of whether indemnification happened, regardless of whether Vince did get any legal help from Ari or from Endeavor, he determined that he was going to presume it as true going into the trial that did influence Vince's thinking. And I think what we've got here in the summer of 2022 as well is it's September, and the federal investigations have relatively recently opened up, and it sounds like Vince is kind of distracted by his quite serious legal issues that are emerging from the SEC and DOJ, and maybe is not engaging with discussions with Ari about a possible company transaction as much as Ari would like. So he's trying to grab his attention by saying, hey, look, I know you got legal problems that you're really worried about. We can help you out with those. Come on over. Just keep talking to me. Is one way to read that.
And again, this is September 16th. And so they have already had their famous meeting at the Gallagher Steakhouse on August the 10th. They had that meeting in August. There's been plenty of communications between Vince McMahon and Ari Emanuel during this entire period, but we're still several months away from Vince formally returning to the board of directors and announcing that they would be initiating a possibility of a sale or merger.
Yes.
So that takes us to 3 days later, and Ari is very much wanting of Vince McMahon's time, and he contacts him and right off the bat apologizes for being a pain in the ass.
I'm sorry I'm a pain in the ass calling you, except that the fact that, that's just my MO as you. And I really do think that we all need to get together and talk through all the issues. Because I think whether it be the DOJ or anything, there's ways around this to figure this out. And I don't know what, you're hearing or thinking. So give me a call if you have 5 seconds.
With the DOJ, there are ways around these things.
How do you interpret that?
The DOJ is this massive boulder that is coming down, and it could crush me. But hey, there's a way around this boulder, okay? If you jump in with us, we can navigate this boulder that's coming for you, Vince. Quick, jump on board. Don't look at KKR. They'll get you crushed. Base 10, they can't deal with this oncoming debris. Come with Endeavor. We have a helicopter.
The real rival for Endeavor is clearly Liberty Media. I believe there's some speculation here that maybe Liberty Media was involved in this bidding process. I don't know if it's paranoia on the side of the Endeavor side, but the notion that Liberty Media would be involved in this process to sort of run the price up so that Endeavor would have to pay more or something like that is one interpretation that's out there.
Why don't you explain for people that this in and of itself, as we have mentioned, and I apologize for some listeners if we're repeating ourselves, but the idea that these parties are engaging in these what seem to be escalating talks is not so much the issue here, but for Vince personally, like, why is this something that comes with potential penalty for Vince McMahon in terms of how he is handling this situation and what is beneficial to him versus beneficial to the company that he is still the largest stakeholder in?
Are you asking why the plaintiffs allege that it was an unfair process?
Yes. Like what is happening here that Vince McMahon is potentially putting himself into a potential ramifications?
There's nothing alone illegal about what they're doing. There's no formal process announced, right? It's September. There's no formal process announced until January. There's nothing illegal or legally wrong about if you're the controlling shareholder of an entity going and talking to somebody who might want to buy it about possibly buying it. That's not a problem. What's a problem is when you have shareholders and then later, once the process does formally open, whether or not everybody else had a fair chance to bid what they really wanted to bid. And you combine this story about what was happening before January, before Vince actually came back, where he's already talking to Endeavor, and we'll hear a clip later where he sounds like he's got his mind made up by December before he comes back. But when the process really opens, there's Liberty, there's KKR, yes, there's Tony Khan, but his bid was by far the lowest. But the question really is,
was that all performative? Was this a process, or was this simply a formality of we will accept these bids, but they are all bidding just for the appearance of a fair process?
And the plaintiffs would allege that this process was rushed through. Endeavor had its bid well ahead of time of the others. Once Liberty made a bid of $95 to $100, Vince McMahon calls up Jeff Sine, who is the allegedly conflicted banker and friend of Ari Emanuel, who's nonetheless representing Vince and WWE as part of this transaction. And, Vince is making sure that Ari gets a heads up that Liberty has made a bid. So the plaintiffs would frame this as he didn't allow the process to develop. Maybe Liberty and KKR would have gotten together to make a bid. Maybe Liberty would have made another bid. Again, this is not about whether or not somebody else necessarily should have ended up with WWE or TKO. TKO could still exist, but maybe there would have been a couple more bids that would have run the price up higher, that would have benefited, that would give more value to the W shareholders. That's sort of the view that the plaintiffs are representing.
And the other factor is that why would Vince McMahon not run up that bidding process? We're establishing here that there are personal guarantees toward Vince that is going to that he is in theory placing ahead of the shareholders. That
there's no indication that Liberty Media is going to allow Vince to stay amid scandal, or KKR is going to allow him to stay amid scandal, that Tony Khan's going to allow him to stay. But he got a lifetime role from Ari Emanuel, and that appears to be something that was agreed to relatively early in this negotiation too.
So we go to the third and final voicemail, and this one is from Vince McMahon, and we're fast forwarding to December the 13th, and this comes after a dinner, which if you look at our wonderful graphic that Brandon created for us, does emphasize the hotel that they were meeting at for this big this big sit-down meeting involving Vince McMahon, Stephanie and Paul Levesque, Nick Khan, Ari Emanuel. Linda McMahon is mentioned at being at this, which is interesting in and of itself. And they all sat down at the Mark Hotel.
That's what it's called. It's in New York City.
Yes.
The Mark.
Ever been?
Hotel. Yeah. No. It's I did look at where it is on the map. It's right. It's to the east of Central Park. It's in upper mid west side. No, east side. Manhattan. Never been there though. It's not Mark Hotel. It's the Mark Hotel.
Okay, the Mark Hotel. Is it true or false that Vince McMahon, like Gallagher's, was asked in his deposition how the steak was? At this,
I don't know. I haven't seen him. We only have parts of Vince's deposition. Do you think any jokes were made about the place where they were having this dinner, where Vince was pretty much decided apparently that he was selling the company, and probably to Ari?
I would imagine that Paul Levesque's 8 words that were uttered at this meeting were probably in reference to a one-liner about where they're meeting at. And then he just went to order his plain chicken breast with an extra dry specification for it.
It's also a hotel. He can stay there for $1,000 a month if he wants to.
A month or a night?
I'm sorry, a night.
Okay, let's not get too crazy here. The Mark Hotel. Look at this free advertising they get. Well, dinner ends, and Vince decides to get out that phone. And who's he dialing? Jeff Stein.
Hey, Jeff, Vince, it's 10:13. Very good meeting with Ari and company. And I think it probably is the best thing to do to go forward with the deal with Ari. It solves a lot of problems. Again, together, I think it's a stronger situation than either one of us on our own. But I'm pretty sure that's the way I want to go now. It's easier, faster, and all that other kind of stuff. So let's talk in the morning. And I didn't commit to Ari, but let's talk in the morning and go. Jeff, thank you so much. Sorry to call you so late. We just broke up. Well, I just broke up with Ari. Was like an hour ago he left or something. And Linda, Stephanie and I and Nick were talking, so we just broke that up. So we'll talk in the morning. Thanks.
A 10:13 p.m. phone call from Vince McMahon. And that certainly sounds like we're going to have a big, open, robust bidding process in a couple of months.
Right. You're supposed to go to whoever the highest bidder is, not just what your preference is.
It just makes the most sense for all of us to go this way.
And there is, I suppose there is an argument there that is representing shareholder interest, because this is going to be the best business for the shareholders in the end. Now, what all is he referring to is open to your interpretation there. And part of what he could be referring to there is he gets to stay with the company. Maybe that's been indicated to him by that point. Interesting that sort of, this is like something out of a movie. It sounds like you've got the whole, apparently Shane's not there, unfortunately. But Linda is there, who's not involved with this business anymore. Stephanie and Paul are there. Nick is there. Mark and Ari are there.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like he's letting everybody know that he's going to part with this company. This is no longer going to be a McMahon-controlled company after the merger, because he no longer has that super voting power.
Yeah, and then Stephanie is the key figure here because this is from Brandon's story on the site. According to Nick Khan's deposition, at the luxury hotel restaurant, Stephanie tried unsuccessfully to convince her father not to sell WWE. Quote, I remember Stephanie discouraging her dad from coming back as the CEO because we didn't know what role he was going to come back in, Khan said in his testimony last year. And I remember her expressing that there was no need to sell the company if that's what he was contemplating. Stephanie later resigned from WWE soon after Vince's return in early January 2023. And then Vince makes the phone call to Jeff Sine of the Reign Group. So that's a very interesting setup that you have Ari Emanuel, who is courting Vince McMahon throughout this whole process and trying to make whatever concessions possible for Vince McMahon, whatever assistance he can make. And here at this same dinner, Stephanie is arguing the opposite. So these are two very different proposals being made toward Vince. And for Stephanie, I'm sure she is looking at, listen, Vince is out of, let's be honest, Vince is out of creative. It has resulted in this company that has, Vince is still meddling at this point, but business is looking good. It is looking like Levesque is going to be in this situation. And this, I'm sure Stephanie is looking at, like, it's going to be me and Nick running this company. And ultimately, I will be the McMahon that leads this company. And it is one thing for my father and all his indiscretions, but at the end of it is that for him to get out of this latest one, it's going to result in all of us losing this company. That's how I read this from Stephanie, was her belief that this was going to be family run and operated, and she was next in line. And now, because Vince is out of options, it's Ari Emanuel that's the lifeline, and she is not going to be the successor to her father.
Yeah, I mean, this is a company that goes from Jess McMahon to Vincent J to Vincent K. Perhaps Stephanie expects to be the next generation controlling the company. If Vince were to pass away, I don't know what the inheritance would be like, but if she were to, she could. So the way those super voting shares work is that it's called Class B shares in their case, and they can only be owned by a McMahon family member. And that doesn't include Paul. You have to be a direct descendant. It's like a dynasty. You have to be a direct descendant of Vince and Linda. So that would include
it's only McMahon blood.
That's right. And so if she would have inherited Vince's shares, she could. I mean, Vince was at 81% of the voting power at this point. She could have inherited that, but so it is consistent with her resigning as soon as he comes back.
And because this always comes up every now and then, I know people pointed out like Shane not being involved in any of this. When Shane left in 2009, he not only left the company, he divested himself of everything. When he returns in 2016, he's coming back as basically an employee of the company. He has none of these contractor. My goodness. He is simply coming back. He has none of these Class B shares. He sells his.
Yeah, he was given equal shares to Stephanie, and then he sold them off all by 2014, I think.
Yes, so, which is right before one set of television renewal. Let's just say Shane did not make a killing off the WWE stock.
Well, I bet he did fine, but he could have made more. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not going to be too many tiers for generational wealth. But yeah, I mean, I think it's most interesting to see. As Nick characterizes it here with Stephanie, and the timing is what it is. Vince comes back. The letter is sent to the board of directors, and we get a unanimous ruling from the board for Vince not to return. And I think if we ask about what changed, because Stephanie and Nick are part of these meetings with Vince, it is this: like, there is friction among Vince coming back with the intent to sell the company, and not the least of which as well is all the baggage that Vince comes with as well, that I'm sure other board members are concerned about. I don't know if that's Stephanie's number one priority. I think it's ultimately selling the company. That's her concern here. I think she has gone through, the embarrassments of her father. She's looking at this from the side of like, this is my company that I thought I would be running for decades to come, and now it's going to be sold elsewhere.
As far as, so you're referencing the letters that go back and forth between Vince and the board, and at this time the board consists of Stephanie, Paul, Nick, and other independent members like Steve Kuhn and Jeff Speed and quite a few others, and they all say, no, Vince, we think it's not a good idea for you to come back while there's DOJ and SEC investigations going on. And according to according to Frank Riddick, in a conversation he had with Frank Riddick, who was the CFO and a board member at the time, Vince's point of view is that, well, the DOJ investigation could take 3 years to conclude, and it ended up taking almost 3 years, right? About 2.5 or so. So he didn't want to wait that long, but it sounded like maybe they were more open to that. Regardless, he comes back, and then we have this group of board members who all wrote this letter to him saying, no, we think it's a better idea if you stay out of the company. Then he comes back. Some people get removed, some people resign, but some people who signed on to that letter apparently also voted for him to stay. Michelle McKenna abstained, the only one who abstained, but everybody else votes to approve him as the executive chairman when he comes back. And I mean, having poured through these files again this week, I would suggest nobody wants to be left on an island being the only person with a view. So it's much safer to move with the direction that everybody else is going, or at least the majority is going.
What do you think? Like, I'm pretty confident. You don't have to guess about Stephanie's motivation here. I mean, it's outlined by Nick Khan's deposition. Do you think Nick Khan has, like, we do know Nick at some point does reach out to Mark Shapiro, and he's asking Mark Shapiro for advice if he should leave the company. And Shapiro kind of assures him to stay on board. And for Nick, I mean, he is semi-incentivized that, he stands to make a nice little bonus if this merger goes through. And, like, do you think he has, like, a care either way of where this goes, whether this ends up as a merged company or whether him as a co-CEO with Stephanie is a preferred destination?
I could not speculate about the motivations of Nick Khan. It is one of the great enigmas of this story.
Well,
but I would say for sure, I want to emphasize again, I get every indication that Mark Shapiro and Nick Khan are close. They have this connection from when Nick Khan is a CAA agent representing a lot of high-profile sports media talent, and Mark Shapiro is a major executive at ESPN, and he discusses somewhat in his deposition about how when he was a young agent at CAA, Mark Shapiro was very gracious to him, and now we can see it right in Nick Khan's employment contract. He's got a key man clause. Key man clause, and it's tied to Mark Shapiro. It means if Mark Shapiro goes, I get the option to go too.
You're supposed to be busy.
Man that you can also learn plenty of life advice from as well. So those were the voicemails. And again, they were, we had to wait for them. I think it is so clear. It's one thing, and I told you this, was there's just a difference between reading something and hearing it for yourself. But as well, like, I can tell you, none of what is said on these voicemails should be revelatory for anyone that's routinely listening to our show or reading the site. But I promise you, these circulated way more because it's audio. And it's, oh my goodness, it's private voicemails that we're not supposed to be hearing. And it just, more people, I could just see from comments yesterday, there were so many people that were learning about so many of these facts about the case as a result of this. And there is a real power in this, is whether it's video or it's audio. It's just a different way in which to not parse to text on a page.
Do you read anything? I mean, what do you make of Ari Emanuel's comment? I mean, Vince was not charged with any crimes. And, we asked WWE and TKO specifically, if Ari Emanuel had any influence or anyone on his behalf had tried to exude any influence on those investigations. They did not respond.
No,
they did not respond. I did email them a month ago. So June 1st was the first time I emailed them about this, expecting to get the files shortly at that time.
Maybe they were going to give you an answer on a voice memo, and they were just finding a way to transfer it to you.
Yeah.
It's an old file system that they're incorporating. What's the question about Ari, just in terms of if he was using influence or not? I think, like, my thing is just listening to the voicemail. It's almost immaterial of whether he acted on any of this. It's more so it is the promise to Vince that he is willing to do this, that is already steering Vince toward Endeavor, toward Ari Emanuel, that, hey, we are going to protect you. We have the means to create and insulate you from any of these civil issues that might be coming at you. We have a lot of powerful people in powerful positions, and okay, they may not have acted on any of this, but that doesn't mean it didn't have an impact on Vince McMahon's thinking.
I guess I was hoping if there was anything that W or TK or Ari Emanuel would be willing to deny, it would be that Ari Emanuel had any undue influence on a criminal investigation.
You would think that that would be the bare minimum, that they would at least want a denial of that aspect out there, but they do not comment on anything as well. And sometimes to their own detriment, like maybe they just do not want anything on the record as it relates to this. To them, this is a settled case and we don't have to deal with this anymore. But I'm sure they will. Maybe they're just waiting. They'll have a response for you at some point. We can only hope. We haven't. Is there anything else you wanted to tackle on the voicemail front before we move on?
That's all.
Janel Grant earlier tonight just posted several slides on her Instagram account. This going back to the infamous date of July 22nd, 2022. I feel this is going to become one of the famous dates in wrestling history. And the first slide features the headline from the Wall Street Journal: Vince McMahon retires as WWE CEO amid sexual harassment scandal. And Janelle's post starts by stating, this is not about the reporting. This is about what was not reported. This is about the evidence produced to the special committee in 2022 and how it was used. This being the special committee WWE enlisted to look into the allegations. So Janelle goes on and she writes, what I know. In 2022, I believed in good faith I was participating in a company's publicly announced investigation. I spent 6 figures on retainers and medical care. I onboarded a legal team. We spent months of time preparing for an investigation that closed without speaking to me. Okay, that aspect we were aware of. What I didn't know. I learned some things about my past that I didn't know before while reading public documents from a shareholder's case. Without my knowledge and without my consent, explicitly graphic evidence was produced to a special committee as part of this investigation. These photos and exchanges, described in plurals, depict me in some vulnerable and or compromising way. The nature of the evidence, descriptors in documents include sexual, very graphic language and photos, something that looks more like sexual abuse, trafficking, nefarious, and without my knowledge and without my consent, this evidence was produced, viewed, distilled into graphic summaries, and read out to the current members of the board of directors, including some in positions of upper management and future board members. So what she's stating here is this investigation went forward, and in this, they found graphic material of Janel Grant that she was not made aware of, and that was spread to various board members without her consent, without her knowledge, and that this was all part of an investigation that, again, they did not speak to her, at least that being what Janel Grant has described.
So part of what she's referring to there these are all things that have come out as part of the merger lawsuit. And in a number of instances and a number of depositions for different board members, including Jeff Speed, whose deposition I'm going to try to bring up here. You have Jeff Speed, I believe he mentions Lesnar here. So, well, maybe not. So in what's also evident in the exhibit list, so there's this big giant spreadsheet that they published that these are all the exhibits that potentially we're going to use at trial. And anyway, what's in there is a text message. We don't see what the document is, but we see a description, a very brief description, a title basically of what the document is. There's a text message from Vince McMahon to Brock Lesnar, or text messages involving both, on October 2nd, 2021, right? So that's even before Grant signs the NDA. So there's some sort of text message there. And then we have Jeff Speed talking about how, as part of the internal investigation, and this Michelle McKenna says similar, Vince handed over his phone to the board's internal investigators. They got this law firm called Simpson Thatcher. They got his phone, and apparently what they found in his phone were explicit images, possibly of Janel Grant. It appears to be images that were being exchanged between Vince and Brock Lesnar of Janel Grant. And this is something that the board's investigators saw, it sounds like right before Vince was convinced to resign. You have this moment where Jerry McDevitt flies into Stamford, Connecticut, goes to the headquarters and has this meeting with Vince, calls Stephanie and then Nick into the room. And it appears that this is this moment where finally Vince decides that, yes, he has stepped down on an interim basis. The Wall Street Journal articles have come out, and now it's July 22nd, and he has decided that this looks so bad, whatever it is, and we don't know what they're really talking about. But he decides to retire. And so what it sounds like happened here is that the board's investigators, the board's law firm that they retained to do this investigation, got these images and did not share the images with the board members, but shared with them these readouts, these descriptions of what these images were and what was being shared between Vince and Brock. Now, that being said, what Janel Grant's raising in this post is whether, according to her consent wasn't sought about this. It's not like this was a criminal investigation or some sort of judge issued a subpoena. This was Vince voluntarily turned over his phone, and these contained apparently sexually explicit images of her that were given to the investigators without her permission.
She adds here that nobody told me, nobody told my attorneys, despite the active communications between attorneys. Put aside not speaking with me, why weren't we notified that this was produced? Why were we not told how it was being used? Who saw this evidence? Who got readouts? Where are copies of these images and readouts saved? Why am I sharing this? I don't want anything remotely like this to happen to anyone else. To see this gives us the ability to clear it, heal from it, address the systems/cultures that enabled it, and create holistic solutions to better support and protect the rights of people. Safety matters, dignity matters, how we treat each other matters. So I think she brings up a very important point there. It's like, is this evidence still sitting somewhere? Are there images and material of me that are still somewhere? Where is the existence of these now? Were they all destroyed? Are they on some hard drive somewhere?
Right.
And who has access to these? Like, these would be all questions I think you would have if you were Janel Grant.
Yeah. I don't know that I'll be able to pull it up on the fly here, but I'm going to try to get to page 67 of what Jeff Speed says about this when he's asked in his deposition, the piece of it that we have here. So that's this. So the question is, did you ever personally form an opinion about whether Vince McMahon violated a company policy? Jeff Speed, who is, by the way, he is an independent member of the board of directors. He is the lead member of the investigation that's investigating misconduct. And he says, again, I think the facts were, it didn't paint a good picture, but without talking to redacted, possibly Grant or Janel, I think it was difficult to come to a definitive conclusion, but the facts were not good. And he's asked, what was not good about the facts that you learned? Answer, the fact that there was a relationship, number one, the fact that we came to learn that there was an agreement that was entered into and a large payment was made. Question, what did you learn about the nature of that agreement? That she and Vince, and most concerning, the company were signatories to an agreement where a non-disclosure agreement. And you mentioned there was a payment, yes. Do you recall the size of the payment? I believe it was in the neighborhood of $3 million. Who made the payment? Vince McMahon. Were there any other facts that you learned that you found concerning? Are we talking during the investigation? Well, we were provided fairly late in the investigation some text messages sent by Vince to Redacted, as well as a wrestler talent at WWE, with some very graphic language and photos of Redacted. Question, who is that wrestler? Answer, I believe it was Brock Lesnar. Question, you mentioned graphic language. Answer, yes. What was the nature of the language? Answer, sexual. What else do you recall about those communications? And we could go on there, but I think you get the gist of it there. Is they're discussing that did the text messages show Mr. McMahon redacted to Brock Lesnar? And it's unclear. I imagine these redactions. So they're I have not opposed the redacting of the names of NDA counterparties, many of whom, the majority of whom are not known to the public. But this also results in Janel Grant's name being redacted here. I don't know if we need to go on here, but I believe that didn't show it, but there was language to that effect. What was the language to that effect? I don't recall the specifics. You mentioned photographs. Yes. We, as the board, did not actually get those. Those were read out to us and described, but I did not see the photos.
And then
again, that was Jeff Speed, who's a member of the board.
Yeah, and then Janel here on this third slide, she talks about how on July 22nd, McMahon's counsel produced documents to the special committee flagging a single graphic text message that McMahon separately produced. That same day, he retires, and she is emphasizing that based on this image, a lot of significant events happened around July 22nd, the same time as this graphic evidence was produced. So she's trying to establish a pattern here of what this graphic image, that this was the straw that broke the camel's back, that Vince immediately comes out of the Wall Street Journal reporting. You remember he goes on SmackDown 2 days later, and he's right in front of the people, and reportedly comes backstage, and his first words, fuck him. He's going to fight all this. A month later, he has to do this, in theory, retirement, whatever you want to make of what that actually materialized into.
So real quick too, this screenshot, this shot of this is from the plaintiff's pretrial brief, which we reported on when this was publicly filed. Because it's a public filing, they're allowed to redact certain things, and for whatever reason they've redacted this line where maybe they're describing what these text messages consisted of, which were the sort of the trigger, the last straw of what got Vince to retire. This footnote you can see here on this redacted bar, footnote 49. If you go down, it a footnote will jump down and it'll reference what's the justification for this, and they point to a number of exhibits and depositions, but they also point to the deposition of Stephanie McMahon, where she says there is no board of a public company that would have a CEO with this kind of evidence against them. Presumably this is when they're asking Stephanie about this particular moment.
And the final slide here are just kind of looking at different depositions here. There's one that it's not given a who said this. There is no board of a public company.
That's the one I just read. That's Stephanie.
Okay, that one was Stephanie. We have the first one here. And then, yes, the Michelle McKenna deposition and the Nick Khan deposition, basically stating that this was, Vince McMahon's exit July 22nd and, the ramifications of this. So that is her latest post of all of this. And, I mean, that is... you were starting to get like pieces here of Janel Grant kind of building towards this whole story and kind of using her Instagram to piece it together. So
I would note that she's posting these things publicly, still speaking publicly. There is, I think people have probably seen the headline that they're going to arbitration. Well, they're still negotiating arbitration. We don't have anything on the docket that says they've actually what they're negotiating. Why they canceled the hearing that they were going to have is because they were going to presumably have some earnest negotiations about going to arbitration. But we haven't gotten any indication that they've actually come to an agreement about going to arbitration. If they don't come to an agreement about going to arbitration sometime in July, they have to have a hearing with the judge at that point. So this public case, Grant versus WWE, may be going away, but it's not, it's not finalized.
We're going to move over to some viewership figures because this past Sunday, NXT had its first PLE on CW with the Great American Bash going head-to-head with the Forbidden Door pay-per-view. And the numbers are in. And their Sunday night show did 394,000 viewers, 0.07 in the 18 to 49 demo. It did peak for the final 30 minutes, which featured the Kendall Gray, Lola Vice women's title match at 416,000 viewers. Now, Brandon, you noted that between April and June, the Tuesday night NXT programs have been averaging 575,000 viewers and a 0.08 And they are coming off a week where last Tuesday they did 668,000 viewers and a 0.11. And just coming in today is the follow-up show from 2 nights ago that did 592,000 viewers and a 0.07. So this was not a great number on Sunday night for what in theory is your monthly pay-per-view that's on free television. And can you attribute all of this to Forbidden Door? That's for you to decide. I think this was a terrible decision going in, and I think this was a really bad number to start this off with. And they're going to do this all over again against All In with a Sunday afternoon show on CW.
Yeah, I think, this is convenient to say in hindsight, but I would not have expected this number to do the equivalent of what NXT does normally on Tuesday. I would not set that as the level of my prediction anyway. I don't know what the level of success would be, but what's a draw in pro wrestling? It's a time slot. Habitual viewership rules. That's what's a draw. It's an anti-draw. Not that wrestler you don't like. Ads. Wrestling being outside of its normal time slot. That's what's an anti-draw. So you would think, in a universe where big matches matter, these are this was a PLE with all the, I don't know, I'm not watching NXT obviously, but these were hyped matches, right? Those were built up matches. This would have, if this was on Tuesday, it would have probably done a bigger number than a usual Tuesday. Now I do have the Forbidden Door competition, which I tend to believe impacted it somewhat, but I don't think this was going to do a normal Tuesday night number on a Saturday at 7.
We don't know the value of this particular streaming deal that CW has
we know the value of CW deal. It's
this is a separate deal for the Sunday PLEs. You would imagine
it could be nothing. It could be just, let's make this partnership even better.
Like we were going from YouTube to CW. Like
how many specials a year are they going to do here?
They did state the number. Whatever. They gave a number for like the life of the deal that I think they're going to do. Regardless,
this is like every other month or something like that.
Yeah, about that. I mean, the next one is August 30th. So basically,
we're going to produce 6 extra episodes of content for you. These are airing live, I imagine.
Yes.
So maybe there's some production expense to bear there, but I don't see this being a big. This is as NXT. It's $25 million. It's a lot of money. It's more money than I've got in the bank, but I don't think this is a huge increment on the existing deal. This is let's do something good for our partner, and maybe they'll give us something for it additionally. But I don't. This is not like, I'm not entering into my spreadsheet and changing my estimates on WWE's financial, annual revenue because of this.
What if they throw in a pre-show barbecue as they did on Sunday, even though there was rain? Does that change your estimates of what this could attract?
It depends on what they're cooking.
So August 30th, I'll tell you what they're cooking. They're cooking a disaster here because they're going to run a doubleheader with AAA and NXT from Edinburgh, Texas. They've decided, why do a Sunday night show when we could do a Sunday afternoon show? Why not, right? So this is going to start at, I believe, noon Eastern with AAA, and then go right into the AAA show will be online, and I presume on their broadcaster in Mexico, and then NXT will air on CW that afternoon, which unfortunately CW is so constrained with time slots that it could only fit this in at the same time that All In London is going to be taking place that same day on pay-per-view as well. So you are going to get 3 shows just overlapping one another on August 30th.
So who's in charge of CW? Brad Schwartz, is that his name?
Yes, Brad Schwartz, that's the name. So,
yeah, it is. So if I want, NXT is probably like the number 1 show.
Yes.
CW, right? It's broadcast network, great reach, but it's like by far the number 5 network in the U.S. as far as broadcast networks. If you're Brad Schwartz or whoever the programming manager is, don't you want, this is a fairly big needle mover on the scale of CW NXT is. Maybe you want this to be on a Saturday instead of a Sunday against the other wrestling show.
Listen, I don't know what they're paying for this, but to me, if these were like the PLEs, I would be expecting no less than what I'm doing for my Tuesday shows that are designed to build these shows
Maybe
up.
that's the trade. We'll give you these PLEs for little or no cost, but Brad,
They're just being used as
they got to be head to head. They got to be head to head with AEW. You got to do us a favor. We'll do you a favor.
Yes, let's bite off our nose to spite our face. Okay, that's what the purpose of this deal sounds like. It is designed to be, and they're gonna have a similar. I think this number.
I wouldn't rule that out. You would want to communicate that up front. Like this, clearly, that's a strategy that W is employing to put NXT head to head with AEW at certain times to try to, to cause an impact on their business. And that's something that, like, look, we want to do these, but we really want these to be, something that we use to go head to head with our competitor.
Is the strategy any more than it's just maybe this will cost AEW some buys? Like, this is not going to cripple any of these shows. This is not going to do any significant damage. Is it just to be a nuisance and to create a free option?
On the scale of the social media internet, it's not a branding positive, right? It makes W look like a bully.
Like, if you are so dead set on this strategy, do you just load up and do a main roster show against one of these? Or do they want to isolate their main product from looking inferior if the result is not to their liking? That NXT
Why aren't they on NBC anymore? Why isn't Saturday Night's Main Event on NBC anymore?
I mean, that was their last main roster opposition and did not play out as they intended for.
Yeah, as we kind of discussed last week, like, I think there's this, it's not a good idea to put the main roster against it. You always want to have this conversation that they did, since the Vince days. So if they beat us, they just beat our developmental league. But the ratings of Saturday Night's Main Event on NBC clearly weren't great enough for them to keep going on NBC. The Saturday Night's Main Events on Peacock seem to have been way downgraded, at least judging by the first one. But they clearly want some sort of content that's not so important that it can't afford to take the hit. And I think that's in effect, that is the strategy that was a benefit of partnering with TNA. Is if you can get TNA to get a little bit of a boost, find a TV deal, which it wants to find, and maybe get them. We don't have to take the hit if this other partner who we don't own will take the hit for us, and then we don't have to worry about pissing off our partners or our media partners, that is. And we can still have that head-to-head competition effect on AEW that we want. It's a bulwark, right?
Well, it sounds like a brilliant idea that's paying dividends.
Is it worth? What's the net? They continue to do this for years, right? I mean, Wednesday Night War was an example of this, right? Is it a net positive
for WWE?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I think it's only, to me, it's like in the short term, it's sort of just sacrificing your NXT product that it just gets buried on these days. It doesn't, I think, reflect well of sort of this halo effect that WWE can have on a CW, where they are the number one show, and I think it's minimizing its audience as opposed to maximizing it. And I just don't see there being any real, like, let's say AEW lost 10,000 buys as a result of this, and I think that would be charitable this past Sunday. It's like, okay, it's like, is that going to be detrimental to AEW? Like, what is the big play here? Is the hope that we're just going to chip away, and it's going to harm AEW once their next TV deal comes up? If that's your strategy to affect their TV deal, then you're playing small ball here against them. Like, go all out then if that's your objective, to just kill this company. But I don't think that's going to have a great outcome either. I think they're out of weapons when it comes to AEW. There is only so much damage that this company can inflict on AEW. And really, like, what has been the most damage that AEW did? A lot of it was internally and self-inflicted during that whole Punk period that they had to work themselves out of. That was not a WWE hit that they had to overcome. It was more so, they did have to deal with a much hotter competitor, but like AEW has come out of that. And I don't know if you are WWE, if you're just simply doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, and you're only harming your own brand in NXT, and you're not willing to go with your bigger brand. Maybe because they have the knowledge that that is not worth the risk, but NXT is worth playing as a sacrificial lamb in this game. I just don't know what the objective of this game is.
It's again the mystifying motivations of Nick Khan.
Hired, man. What does that mean? You're working hard?
We move on over. We're gonna finish off with two clips here. The first is from Brett Lauderdale, owner of GCW. He was interviewed by Sean Ross Sapp at Fightful, and he is clinging to hope that Triller is going to come out the other side. We have spoken about this. Triller in disarray, but if there is any company that is rooting for Triller more than GCW, it doesn't exist because
I'm sorry. What is Brett Lauderdale doing in this interview? Where is he sitting? It looks like he's sitting in like a.
And he has also enabled his zoom in function to an alarming degree here. There's definitely no headroom manageable. Sean, very nice shot here.
Yes.
Perfect headroom, gets the logo in there.
Yep.
So let's hear from Brett Lauderdale when asked if he has had discussions about MyAEW.
Yeah, I've talked to AEW about MyAEW. And you know, I think it's a nice option to have. And obviously every company's different. We're different than most other independent companies. So, you know, for a lot of people, it's a no-brainer and they should join today or yesterday or tomorrow. You know, it's a great affiliation to have. It's a company with a lot of resources and, you know, obviously it's an opportunity to have some stability. You know, now there are other companies who, you know, depend on a certain amount of revenue and who have depended on a certain amount of revenue and generated a certain amount of revenue from their streaming and pay-per-views and whatnot, you know, for years or many years and, you know, they need to make decisions, you know, based on business that allow them to continue either as they've continued or to a level that their fans expect. So I don't know where that puts House of Glory, you know, I don't know where that puts, you know, GCW now or in the future, but you know, right now, the best business decision for GCW is to stay with Triller. But, you know, like I said, that's a great option for so many companies to finally have, you know, a new platform, some new hope, and again, a great affiliation. So I think it's great for indie wrestling.
What do you think Jonathan Coachman would offer advice-wise? Okay, Brett, look into the camera, talk to the people. So I took that. I'm pretty good at translating promoter speak. You are right to jump off this ship for all these companies that are not getting paid. Go get paid because MyAEW will get you paid, but they are not going to pay what Triller is supposed to be paying us. And we do not want this sweetheart deal to go sour with Triller. So we are clinging on like much tighter than Rose was holding on to Jack after the Titanic was going down. They are going to be there until the bitter end to try and see this deal out with Triller.
I think I have some breaking news.
Oh.
Let's put this on the screen. I think this will be all right.
Oh, it's
all right, so this is Flips Media v. Triller. This is the Triller TV versus Triller parent company lawsuit. This is a filing that just came out this afternoon.
The headline, denied.
So there's the proposed order, I believe, from the plaintiffs. And now, upon consideration of plaintiff Flips Media Inc.'s motion for default judgment, this is basically the Flips Triller TV side saying they're not representing themselves. So just give us the favorable judgment. The motion, it is ordered that the motion is granted. Default judgment is entered. Oh, this is the proposed, but then the judge denies it, saying, as discussed at argument, officers who are not stakeholders and whose officer title is not disputed do not have standing to bring claims under this law. The equities viewed through a lens of whether stockholders or creditors are being harmed do not support the remarkable appointment of a custodian in equity at all, or take the remarkable step of putting the company into bankruptcy when the stockholder is content with its company's affairs. And the creditor can help themselves. See all these examples of case law. This is a ruling by Judge Morgan Zern of the Delaware Court of Chancery. So that's not a good ruling for Triller TV, it sounds like, in terms of them getting the control to either go bankrupt or to free themselves from not being funded by their parent company.
On the other front, I was just pulling this up because we do have, of course, the Triller CEO, Wing Fei Ing, who...
Oh, there were a lot of Triller filings this week. You got him.
Yeah, he's got a few here. Let's start from 13 hours ago. Trading resumes today. We were halted on Tuesday afternoon and engaged immediately with NASDAQ. We issued a clarification yesterday afternoon, and NASDAQ confirmed this morning that trading would resume today. We thank NASDAQ for their swift response, focused on execution and creating shareholder value. Then an hour later, we came out of the AGM with strong shareholder support and clear direction. 2025 equals complete reset. 2026, monetization year. We've published written answers covering capital flexibility. Then he says, we shut down what was not making money, preserved the assets that matter, restored the public company platform, and are now focused on one thing: converting users, fans, creators, advertisers, sports audiences, and financial services customers into revenue. No mention of Game Changer Wrestling. I also want to address a misconception regarding the reverse split. We have already executed it, and we have no intention of doing another one in the future. He's always quick to also include their ticker lettering as well to all of these tweets. So the man is
there were a lot of filings.
He's very confident.
There's some
just
Q&A.
A fork in the road.
There was no discussion of Triller TV in anything that I saw from the Triller parent company this week. There was some discussion about why the Triller app was shut down, and it's got a great legacy and all this and that. I think I sent you the filing, and I said I understand even less what this company does now.
Yeah, I mean, as we've said over and over, GCW is in a tough spot. Like I think especially that question you asked Tony about doing like the week-long, like their kind of WrestleMania week, which seems more and more like this is something AEW is going all in. There's a value to GCW, maybe above any other independent groups. It's just, I think Brett Lauderdale very much realizes we're not going to get the same deal anywhere else. And it's the hope that Triller will come out of this and honor their deal. But that's, to me, you're really clinging to a hope and a prayer that Triller comes out of this the other side, because MyAEW, maybe they'll give GCW a better deal than these other independent companies. They certainly have the volume of shows that would command more, but like what's your leverage situation? It's that, or you're going back to just selling your own pay-per-views, and you're going to distribute them yourself. You're going to find another third party to do it. You're going to start your own streaming service. Like, those are the options. And if I was Brett Lauderdale, man, I would not be looking forward to alternative options.
It's tough, and I don't know. I'll look into this more, but this does not look like a favorable ruling for Triller TV here. This came out today.
The last thing, John Cena and his relationship with Vince McMahon. He told a story this week. He was on NPR, and he spoke of a time that he acted out of turn, and he insulted Vince McMahon by daring to step outside of the castle walls and see what else there was to offer in the world.
One time I tried to get involved with an entrepreneurial social network startup, and I didn't tell my boss. And we talk about everything. This was man, we're going to do this together. And in potentially being part of this startup, my name's John Cena, so I would essentially be leveraging intellectual property.
Yeah.
That's a team decision. And
this is when you were wrestling, yeah.
And yeah. I love and trust my boss. He's far more than my boss.
Sorry, John, is this your agent or the head of
this Vince McMahon.
Oh, the big boss.
The big boss.
Vince McMahon. Yeah.
I was just trying to get more money. My boss found out, and to be honest, he was great. He was great. He like walked me through okay, this is the choice you've made. Let's walk through all the tentacles of what might happen. And in a moment where it was a direct violation of trust to somebody I had worked years, and he invested years in trusting me too.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a moment where he could have just gone nuclear, because trust takes years to build and moments to destroy. And he didn't. He had patience and tolerance, and I think possibly as an entrepreneur himself, maybe try to put himself in my shoes and walked me through it. And like, it took 5 minutes or less to realize like, I'm such an idiot. And I immediately called the company back and said, I'm out. This isn't for me.
That was independent contractor John Cena.
I was going to say, it's understandable. John Cena's real name is not John Cena, right? And he's an employee of this company.
Of course.
And
he's got benefits. He's given the name John Cena.
Travel.
He was, all those things.
Insurance.
401k, retirement plan, options in the company.
Does he say what year this is or indicate?
It was right before the hockey players unionized, I think, as well. Which, I'm sorry, you listen to that, and people ask me, do you ever see a union happening among WWE wrestlers? I'm like, does that sound like a man that's about to lead a revolt of and unionize his fellow colleagues, with John Cena as the flag bearer of that company for all those years? I mean, how dare I? Like, I insulted the man by even looking at an outside business deal. I couldn't believe this line.
Do we have any hints about what social media platform this was?
Oh, I mean,
was this Tout? Did W take it for themselves?
Yeah, we're just gonna buy all of Tout itself, John. Imagine it was like the mid 2000s, and he could have got in on the ground floor of like a really big like tech startup, and it would have been life altering money for the guy.
It was like Instagram or something, TikTok.
Yeah. It was my buddy Mark. He was, he went to. He started this book face, something like that. I don't know.
I met him while I was jogging with a flak jacket on. Yeah.
Anyway, but
did you
I'm so glad Vince showed tolerance, and it could have gone nuclear, but he didn't. So very nice.
Trust takes years to build, moments to destroy.
Yeah, they preserved it. So
did you hear the other John Cena news this week?
His hair. Yeah.
He is representing for Balding Man Everywhere when he said, look, there's nothing to be, I don't know if that's what this is intended. There's nothing to be ashamed of being a bald man who needs a hair transplant, okay? He will take the first steps. He will be the one who takes that initiative, who puts himself out there and takes that risk, and he leads by example.
Well, I'm curious if he had a contract coming up after this social media snafu and he had to take a haircut on his next contract as penance. Good for John. It's a good look for him. Well, welcome to the club, John. You're more than welcome.
We haven't had hair transplants though.
She had the courage.
I haven't been to Turkey. Thank you.
All right, everybody. We're at the end of the road. Okay, that's Pollock and Thurston for this week. Brandon's got to go. He's got 2 hours of Impact and 2.5 hours of Collision.
I've got head tonight. I've got some other breaking news. A few other news items. The roof. We had a third opinion come over and said, actually went in the house, went up into the attic, which is hot as hell, and said, oh no, yeah, your shingles are in real bad shape. Somebody redid this roof and did a bad job. We'll get back to you with an estimate. So, so that's two out of 3 opinions say yes. You've inherited a very bad roof.
I'm sorry.
Also, new entity has arrived at this household. We have adopted a kitten.
You've adopted a kitten?
Yes. We already have a dog. They're coexisting. They are very patiently coexisting. The dog is older and small and completely harmless and is getting in the cat's face. And this is a kitten. It's like 4 months old. So he got swatted a few times.
Oh boy.
This is a long story I could get into. We found a cat just hanging out in the front yard in like the garden area and it was there for like a day and a half. So we like brought it in the house and just let it live with us for like a night. And then I saw the neighbor and I was like, I better ask this neighbor is this your cat? And he's like, oh yeah. So it was their cat.
Okay.
But we've been talking about getting a cat for a few months. So we have this kitten now.
So the cat you gave back, and then
we gave back the cat to its rightful.
But that prompted you to go out and get the kitten.
Make a long story short, yes.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
We don't do humans. We don't adopt humans. We don't have humans in this house, but we do have animals.
And a roof over your head, at least for now.
For now. It needs some work, though.
Well, everyone, this is the part of the show where we direct you to head on over to postwrestling.com. You can read Brandon's extensive story, supported by the audio files that escaped earlier this week and found their way to one Brandon Thurston. And hey, if you enjoy this type of work, you can go support patreon.com/WrestleNomics or postwrestlingcafe.com. You could go for both. That would be wonderful. Okay, so go support this. This doesn't write itself. $5 fees for voicemails that they are trying to extract value out of us to just try and deliver what a judge has said we have a right to.
And it's a new month, so there will be new reports in terms of we'll do the monthly live event analysis, the monthly top YouTube videos. Those will be coming out. Who's had the most matches in the month and year to date? I do those every month. But yes, this does. Pacer has raised their prices, by the way. Pacer is this electronic system. It's just how you get access to federal legal filings. It's usually 10 cents a page, but starting in January, they're raising it to like 15 cents a page or something like that.
Man, no one is immune.
Inflation is out of control.
Well, I understand they're only temporary.
But it's like it's the most dishonest use of temporary that I've seen. This is a 5-year temporary price rate, increase, and it doesn't say what happens after that.
Yeah, it's like we're all on this earth temporarily,
right?
Till further notice. But we are not. We are getting out of here. So goodbye, everyone. And yes, couldn't have said it better. For David Bixenspan, I'm John Pollock and Brandon Thurston, and we'll speak with you next week.